Good evening and welcome. This is Jolanda Jones again, blogging with you about relevant issues. The issue I want to talk about today is something that happened down in Tampa, Florida, when a young lady was assaulted by an acquaintance. She filed charges against him and decided not to pursue the charges after she worked out a deal with him, which would require that he sat at a busy intersection with a sign that said, "I beat women, honk if I'm a scumbag," with a dunce cap for 8 hours. She has been criticized by women's rights advocates, by people in the domestic abuse industry, and by law enforcement for not pursuing the charges. So at the end of this blog, I'd like for you to comment on whether you think it was appropriate or not for what she did. I want to chime in on what I think is appropriate. I think that I have life experiences that make this a relevant topic for me to have understanding about. I was in an abusive relationship for almost 6 years with the father of my child, who happens to be my ex-husband. Let me first say that I got a beautiful son out of the deal, and I wouldn't trade him for all the tea in China. However, it was a toxic relationship. I'm very lucky to have come out of that relationship alive. On the few occasions where I did call the police and he abused me on more occasions than I actually called the police, I never went through with the charges. As a consequence, he was never really punished as he should have been punished. One of the reasons why I think that it is okay, or it was appropriate, for Alisha Hessler to allow Gabriel Urena to do this novel punishment is because I don't believe that batterers intervention programs work based on my personal experiences with him. On at least a couple of occasions, my ex-husband was required to attend and participate in and successfully complete a batterers intervention program, which, at least the way it was set up in Harris County, which is in Houston, or I should say Houston is in Harris County, it was an either 16 or 18 week program, and the batterer had to go the either 16 or 18 weeks once a week, except for 1 week the person that was battered, in my case me, ended up having to go, which was right about the middle of the program. When I went, what I did was I shared with the batterers who were in the class the effects of the battering on me and our child and our life, and tried to help them see how their actions were affecting their loved one. I later found out that those men didn't get it at all. In fact, they felt sorry for my ex-husband because he had an educated woman who had a job and who had thoughts and opinions, and they, for the most part, might as well have been back in caveman days, because they believed a woman was a property of a man, and that a woman should not be able to talk back or think back or do anything, and always needed the man's permission. So I don't think they work. In fact, the reason that I left my ex-husband was I was tired of him jumping on me. He jumped on me one evening. My sister and her boyfriend were there, as was our child, and I had to flee where we left, hide in my neighbor's apartment, and I'm thankful that I made out of that relationship alive. So the question becomes, was what Ms. Hessler did appropriate? I think in her case, based on everything that I read, I do think it's appropriate. I don't think that Mr. Urena had previous assaults. There was nothing to indicate that. So I think that if you're a first-time offender, then if you can come up with a way to punish the person without them actually having a record, that might be advisable, especially if it makes them think about their actions. I tell you what, my ex-husband sitting through those 18 weeks didn't change anything, because in my opinion there was no public shame and humiliation. He was with a group of guys, and they all felt the same way, and they all thought they were justified in their actions. I'm certain that the guy got a lot of honks, because I know had I driven by, I would have honked. But I also know it made him think about it publicly. One of the ways that women or men are able to be abused is that they are abused in silence. They're abused not in public, but in private. And what she did was she put it out there. She made it public for everyone. Most people who are in abusive relationships don't go tell people they're in abusive relationships. I know that I didn't. When I would have bruises on me, I would stay in, or I would make up an excuse for why I had bruises on me. And no one believed that my ex-husband would ever do that. I remember for the almost 6 years that I was with him was one of the most unproductive, in fact, it was the most unproductive time in my life. And I remember when I came out of it, I had a guy who I thought was my friend. When he asked where I was, because I was in Houston and people didn't even know that I was in Houston. I mean, my ex-husband is the reason that I retired from track and field as the defending United States champion, because he didn't want for me to shine in athletics. So my track career was cut short at 23. But, you know, I'm not crying over spilled milk. But I kept the secret because I was ashamed that I didn't want anyone to know what was going on. I didn't want for people to know that I allowed someone to abuse me. And that is how they exercise control over you. So Miss Hessler, I guess blasting him, for lack of a better word, I think is good. I also think that it gives her power back. And that's one thing that allows people that are abused to stay trapped, is they don't have power. They don't know how to take it back for themselves. And even if it's in the criminal justice system, they really don't have power there because they are not in control of what happens. So in this instance, I think it's okay for what she did. Now, if Mr. Urena doesn't learn his lesson and he abuses someone else, then I think certainly charges should be filed and they should be pursued. But I think that the people that are criticizing Ms. Hessler for what she did need to step back. They need to just step back, because what are they doing? They're actually re-victimizing the victim, in my opinion. I don't know if she's been abused before, but I think she took the bull by the horns and she's riding it. I applaud her. I wish I would have had the courage that she had, or that she has, to control what was happening to me. I'm very thankful that I'm not the woman now that I was then, because I don't think that it was a healthy environment for me to be raising my child in. And I later found out, after a number of years, that my son knew exactly what was going on. He reminded me of things that happened when I was with his dad. For some reason, I didn't think he understood because he was so young. So unbeknownst to me, he was learning inappropriate behavior. Again, I'm thankful that I left. The O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Simpson trial helped give me the courage, again, to leave him. But perhaps I should have told people. Perhaps I should have shamed him, because he did worry about what other people thought. And if people are criticized or shamed by people that they care about, then I think that that has a way of modifying behavior. And I think that that's important. So I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts are about this this incident that happened in Florida. Answer on my Facebook. I'm on YouTube. Go there. I'm just curious to know what you think. I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about. All you have to do, especially during this time of the year, is look at all of the murder-suicides or murders of people who are intimate with each other, or people who are acquaintances with each other. It's something that we need to talk about. We need to figure out how to stop this epidemic, and we need to figure out creative ways to punish people to modify their behavior. So you guys have a great evening. Again, this is Jolanda Jones. I'm thankful for you listening. I know you could be listening or watching someone else. And so thank you for listening to Jolanda's Jargon. And I'll talk to you again on the next relevant topic. Bye.